I didn't know much about him, and so the only thing that I had asked her when she said she wanted to set us up was, I had one question. I said, well, is he nice? Because if he wasn't kind, it just didn't.
We all have been hearing a thing or two about Meghan Markle and what her relationship with the royal family is like. However, rarely anybody talks about what her life was like in Hollywood. She has been very popular for her role in Suits, but not much is known about her career beyond that. Just not so long ago, there were rumors linking her to the Harvey Weinstein saga, which had pretty much raised eyebrows about her personality. However, what some really don't know at the moment is, what really is her relationship with Harvey Weinstein? Come with us as we tell you all you need to know. When Meghan Markle and Prince Harry stepped away from their royal roles in 2020, the entire world watched them. The departure of the couple from the British royalty stunned the world. Everyone wondered what their lives would be like after they were outside the institution that had consumed Harry's every waking moment. Everyone was very interested in how they were going to fund themselves, where they would be living, and where they were off to next. Although they claimed they wanted to lead a more normal life, Harry and Meghan were still pretty much in the limelight. Their renunciation of royal life was followed by a highly publicized blending of media and entertainment life. After moving to North America, they moved to California and began building their new life as freelance actors. They were in high demand, and they leveraged that demand to negotiate lucrative contracts in the entertainment industry. Even at the early stage, they indicated that they wanted to build a brand that would be different from links with royalty and align with their beliefs. One of their most notable business shifts was their multi-year agreement with Netflix for a little over $100 million. It marked the start of their post-royalty era and an acknowledgement that they wanted to be major players in content creation. With their production division, Archewell Productions, they would be producing documentaries, scripted series, feature films, and children's programming. The deal was presented as a vehicle for sharing their strong and inspirational narratives on issues of social influence, diversity, and resilience. Their first undertaking, the documentary series Harry and Meghan, presented their fans with an up-close look at their life, how they weathered their stay with the British royal family, the press, and their U.S. way of life. Although the series was a huge success and created a lot of media buzz, it also created controversy over their stance on privacy. Harry and Meghan also inked another high-profile deal with Spotify aside from Netflix, signing an exclusive agreement for a reported $20 million to produce podcasts under Archewell Audio. Meghan had hosted the Archetypes podcast, which delved into women's stereotypes in society. The podcast included sit-downs with A-list celebrities and had been created to spark gender and identity discussions. However, despite the initial and chart-topping success with podcasts, the Spotify deal ended suddenly after claims that the duo had not provided quality content, which could draw investments. With their streaming businesses still active, the two also ventured into other businesses that best suited their passion. Meghan initially ventured into Cleaver Blends, a company whose business is in wellness and natural lattes. The move was characteristic of her own increasing interest in lifestyle branding, something that she had previously familiarized herself with through blogging, prior to marrying into the royal family. Meghan's arrangement with the company was relatively low-key in comparison to their presence within the media, but indicative of how their long-term goal is to establish a diverse portfolio. Harry, on the other hand, has devoted his time to campaigning on mental health, working as Chief Impact Officer for mental health and coaching app BetterUp. For his work with the company, he reconfirmed his longtime interest in mental health, which remained something that he was interested in, even in his life as a royal. Perhaps the most anticipated book from Harry was his memoir, Spare, released in 2023. The memoir provided a glimpse into his life that had never been seen before, chronicling his struggles with grief, family embarrassment, and growing up in the shadow of his older brother, Prince William. The memoir sold out in one night but caused controversy, particularly in the United Kingdom. It was embraced by some as the solution to Harry's grievances against the royal family, and endorsed by others as real and honest. The book hitched a ride on the idea of Harry and Meghan taking back control by speaking on their own terms, as opposed to the media or the institution of the monarchy dictating their story. With all their various activities, Harry and Meghan believed they were distancing themselves from the royal family. They clearly defined the negative impact the British media had on them and how it affected their well-being. Their Oprah Winfrey interview in 2021 was the breaking point, when they talked about their reservations against the monarchy and how the royal establishment was treating them unjustly. While they highlighted their move to California as a way of shielding their family from Britain's intrusive tabloid society, their publicity machine and public pronouncements constantly undermined that attempt. With the release of their Netflix documentary, Harry's book, and their regular public appearances, the couple were just as prominent as they had been previously. Their critics even accused them of being attention-seeking. Through the highs and lows of their media pursuits, Harry and Meghan continued their philanthropic work. They continued to deal with causes like mental health, equal rights for women, and international humanitarian support through the Archewell Foundation. Their base of operations enabled them to be engaged with causes that they discussed and made them agents of change. They covered world events, took a stand on social issues, and collaborated with celebrity groups. With time, though, it seemed like Harry and Meghan's existence outside of the palace environment wasn't just marked by their successes, but also had its challenges. They were able to get in as successful media figures and collect humongous checks while embarking on high-profile campaigns. However, they did not always get it right. Their works were attacked by people who believed that their new ventures were contrary to their earlier stated desires to live a private life. This went on to raise questions about what their end goals really are. Before Meghan Markle was one of the most famous women in the world as the wife of Prince Harry, she was already a familiar face in the entertainment industry. Well before her romance with the British royal was making headlines, people were fascinated by her career, her love life, and her journey towards becoming an iconic actress. Meghan had devoted years in Hollywood to becoming an iconic actress. After she took the royal lifestyle, her previous life was of great fascination, and most were keen to hear of her life before Harry. Most significantly, there were questions about how she had risen through the ranks of Hollywood, which opened the floodgates for rumor and speculation, including unfounded links to men like Harvey Weinstein. But a closer look at her life and the people she hung around with told a different story of a woman who fought to get by. Meghan's Hollywood life was not an overnight success. She auditioned for years, worked her way into background roles, and worked quietly to build her credentials. After graduating from Northwestern University with a theater and international relations major, she relocated to Los Angeles to pursue acting as a full-time career. She was like all other aspiring actors, starting small with minor roles in films and TV shows in the early 2000s. Her first role with credits was in General Hospital, where she acted in a cameo as a nurse. She moved on to guest appearances on major shows such as CSI, NY, Fringe, and 90210. They were not the lead roles but prepared her for the bigger picture. One of her early significant roles was on the courtroom drama television series The Good Wife, where she played a junior associate with aspirations. Though it was a guest star role, it was a chance for her to show her acting skills. She also popped up in Horrible Bosses, a box office success, alongside Jason Bateman, Jennifer Aniston, and Kevin Spacey. In the film, Meghan had a flirtatious FedEx delivery girl role in a brief but not unimportant scene with Bateman. Although she restricted her screen time, her role in a high-budget Hollywood comedy put her in front of even more people. She was determined to get a lead in TV or film, determined to get a breakaway role. It finally came in 2011, when she was cast as Rachel Zane in Suits, a courtroom drama television series that would become the cornerstone of her acting career. Suits was popular on the USA Network, and Meghan's character was immediately popular. She played Rachel Zane, the intelligent, fashionable, and persistent character, and Meghan brought depth and warmth to the role as an actress. The show gave her consistent work for 7 seasons, and during that period she was a familiar face in the home on television. Suits was an international phenomenon, so she also gained fame beyond Hollywood. Based on the success of Suits, Meghan herself found fame in showbiz, and that provided access to industry giants. She went to the premieres on the red carpets, fashion shows, and other Hollywood events, where she rubbed shoulders with well-known figures. She also made friends with A-list celebrities such as Serena Williams and Priyanka Chopra. Her social circle expanded as she became more actively involved in humanitarian causes, becoming close to powerful figures outside the confines of Hollywood, like politicians and activists. She was also linked to some of the largest players in business and media, establishing herself further into the upper rungs of Hollywood. As she gained popularity, there were rumors and speculations on how she gained fame. There were people, particularly Meghan's critics since her marriage to Harry, who tried questioning how she got into Hollywood. This exposed her to unsubstantiated reports about whether or not she was linked to Harvey Weinstein, the powerful film producer who would come to be infamous for scandalous assault claims. Because Weinstein had worked with dozens of actresses over the course of his career and was so powerful in Hollywood, any woman who achieved success in the industry was sometimes unfairly linked to him. Meghan was no exception. However, aside from the women actresses who otherwise had spoken out before regarding interactions with him, whether positive or negative, Meghan's name was never brought up as having any kind of link with the producer prior to the rumors. Those who tried to link her to Weinstein forgot that her ascension to Hollywood was out of hard work. Instead of owing allegiance to industry moguls, Meghan's career was one of consistent effort. She was never part of the Weinstein-backed blockbuster movie empire. Her largest project, Suits, was a TV production that had nothing to do with him. Also, her foray into humanitarian activism and public advocacy for gender equality and women's empowerment showed that she had built a career on her own terms. Meghan was a vocal, long-term supporter of women's causes, and it is therefore extremely unlikely that she would have been party to the poisonous culture that Weinstein stood for. Once successful, she employed her fame to lobby for the issues closest to her heart, thereby cementing her independence. Meghan was already successfully established as a donor, even before she met Harry, with charities such as UN Women. She gave public speeches regarding gender equality and penned columns advocating for women's rights, rather than the stereotypical Hollywood leading lady. Her charitable work proved that she was not merely pursuing fame, but was committed to making a positive impact beyond acting. While she retired from acting when she got engaged to Harry, her name remained recognized by Hollywood, and not because of behind-the-scenes connections to shady characters. Rather, her long-term associations with actors, athletes, and activists proved that she had built close bonds out of a mutual sense of experience. Before becoming a member of the British royal family, Meghan was already involved in humanitarian efforts, business, and advocacy. While acting was her primary career for decades, she never stopped seeking opportunities to reach beyond the screen. From voicing her opinion about gender equality to sitting on the boards of philanthropic institutions, Meghan made herself a voice for change. Now, with her retirement from acting behind her, she has shifted her focus toward production and content creation while maintaining an international presence. Well before marrying Harry, Meghan was committed to humanitarian causes. As a teenager, she was already doing community service, working at soup kitchens, and participating in charity activities. She also carried this into adult life, actively seeking ways of pushing forward those causes. She was an advocate for gender equality and coordinated directly with such organizations as UN Women. At the UN Women Conference during International Women's Day in 2015, she presented a strongly influential address and discussed the role of empowering adolescent girls and opening doors to equivalent opportunities for women. She also talked about her own personal experiences of facing gender bias at a young age and the need for systemic change. Aside from working with UN Women, Meghan also collaborated with World Vision, a global humanitarian organization focused on child welfare. She traveled to Rwanda in 2016 as part of a clean water campaign, raising awareness about the need for safe drinking water for vulnerable populations. Her visit was well publicized, reiterating her promise to use her power for the greater good. Meghan also took part in educational programs for poor girls, stressing the ability to change lives with access to education. In addition to partnerships with reputable organizations, she used her own brand to advocate for social change. She had a lifestyle blog, The Tig, where she wrote her views on empowerment, giving back, and self-improvement. The blog turned into a platform where she was able to share openly concerns that were relevant to her, from the relevance of representation in the media to the necessity for inclusion in diverse industries. From The Tig, she built a following for her advocacy. Even after closing the blog in 2017 during her entry into royal life, its impacts were still prevalent, and numerous followers still linked her to her conscientious and socially conscious message. When she got married to Prince Harry and was officially the Duchess of Sussex, her philanthropic endeavors continued to expand. She received numerous patronages like the National Theatre of the UK, an organization of arts patronage. She also patronized Smart Works, a charity that helps women get ready for job interviews by providing professional clothing and career advice. Her connection with these charities was all about being hands-on. She met with beneficiaries on a regular basis and worked on plans to increase the level of support for women in need. Her most significant humanitarian efforts within the royal family included the Together, Our Community Cookbook initiative. In answer to the Grenfell Tower fire, Meghan collaborated with some women of a nearby community who had been using cooking as an activity of healing and support. She helped them publish a cookbook for their recipes and gave proceeds towards funding the kitchen for the community. The project was successful, selling tens of thousands and being praised for its real value. Meghan's approach was unique in that she did not simply lend her name to the cause. She was a hands-on participant, visiting the kitchen on a regular basis and forming personal relationships with the women who were working on the project. After she stepped away from royal life in 2020, Meghan continued to advocate, but she also began to focus on production. The couple made deals with the major streaming giants, Netflix and Spotify, as they entered the content creation business. Meghan and Harry hope to create documentaries, scripted television shows, and children's shows that foster necessary conversations through Archewell Productions. Their Netflix show, Harry and Meghan, generated massive global curiosity, with millions tuning in to hear their side of the narrative. As a producer, Meghan was free to tell stories she could not have told as an actress. She focused on causes that were close to her heart, such as mental illness, social justice, and gender equality. One of her other ventures was Pearl, an animated show based on influential women throughout history. The series was initially on Netflix but was later canceled as a reaction to the platform's changing content strategy. Unfazed by the setback, Meghan still wanted to produce content that would both inspire and inform. Her ability to shift from performing to crafting stories for shows showed both her adaptability as well as her desire to leave a lasting legacy. Outside of Netflix, Meghan and Harry also experimented with podcasting with Archetypes, a Spotify podcast presented by Meghan. The program was well received and won a People's Choice Award for Best Podcast, also establishing Meghan's place in the world of media. However, their contract with Spotify ended eventually, giving rise to speculation about what they would do next. Although they abandoned acting, Meghan's life is still of interest to people all over the world. Whether it's through her production work, public appearances, or philanthropy, she is still of interest. Her relationship with Harry is scrutinized day and night, and everyone is waiting to hear how they will deal with their evolving roles. Every move they make sets off headlines. The fact that they decided to step away from royal duties was unprecedented, and people are still fascinated with the way they've decided to live outside of the monarchy. There you have it. We hope you enjoyed the story, and we will see you in the next one. Next.